Hello makers, this is Heather with the Maker Jungle. Today I'm going to walk you through how to corner to corner crochet. I've used this technique for projects big and small and love it for its simplicity and uniqueness. Let's start out with a slip stitch and 6 chain stitches. This will be the base that we're going to build the first corner out of. We're going to double crochet into the middle chain stitch. If you count from the tail, it'll be 1, 2, and 3 right there. Once you've completed this double crochet, you're going to double crochet into the 2 remaining chain stitches. Okay, now we're going to move on to the next row, and it's going to move in a diagonal fashion. We're going to start with 6 chain stitches. This is going to be our turning chain. And once we get to the end of that 6th chain, we're going to flip the piece over. And then we're going to double crochet into the 3rd chain from the piece. And just as we did before, we're going to double crochet into the 2 remaining chain stitches. Now that we've completed those 3 double crochets, we have 2 separate pieces, and we're going to connect them together with a slip stitch. So we just go into that turning chain that we had from the previous square and just slip stitch it right there just to anchor them together. Now you're going to chain 3, and that's going to be your turning chain to start this square. And then you're going to do 3 double crochets into that space. Once you have your 3rd double crochet completed and you look at it, it may look like it's off center, but really your chain is just too far up on the space. So just push it down and it'll be just fine. Now to start the next row, we're going to do a 6 chain again. This is going to be the same way that you will start each row as we come into the next. And flip the piece over. And then you're going to double crochet into the 3rd chain stitch from the piece. If I can get it turned correctly. There it is. Here we're finishing up the 2 double crochets in the remaining chain stitches. Then just as before, we're going to move over to the next square by slip stitching into the negative space caused by the turning chain of the previous square. Once you have the 2 squares anchored with a slip stitch, you're going to chain stitch 3 to create a turning chain to make a new square. You'll follow these chain stitches with 3 double crochets into the same negative space. Just as before, you're going to anchor these 2 squares with a slip stitch in the negative space on the neighboring square. Chain 3 for your turning chain, and then 3 double crochets into the same negative space. This is the pattern that you're going to use for each additional row that you make to your project until it gets to the size that you want it to be. When you get to the end of this square, just straighten it out just as you did before. And you can see here that we have 3 rows. This was first, second, and third. And now we're going to take it and we're going to go back the other way, and we're going to decrease instead of increase our project. We're going to slip stitch across the top of this square. 1, 2, 3 times. We're going to chain 3 and find the negative space right there, and you're going to do 3 double crochets into this space, and this is going to create the new square that's going to decrease the size. Now we're going to connect to the next square with our slip stitch, just as before. The pattern is the same whether you're increasing or decreasing. So we do our anchoring slip stitch and then 3 chain stitches. And then 3 double crochets into the negative space. Here you'll notice that this is where we're going to bridge the gap to the next square with our slip stitch. You normally feel like you should go on but to the next and create another square, but we're actually decreasing instead of increasing. So once you finish your slip stitch, we're going to flip it over, and you can have your yarn in the front or you can have your yarn in the back. On this section I prefer actually to have it in the front because it creates less of a loop on this square. So now we're going to slip stitch across the top of this square. And now you're going to chain 3. And then 3 double crochets into the negative space. This is the last square in the total project. You're going to slip stitch to anchor it to the last square. Then I prefer to turn it over and slip stitch to the end because to me it just makes a more even edge. It looks just a little bit nicer. Once you have your last slip stitch in place, snip off the end and give yourself enough yarn to weave in to finish off the project. Now you can see here this was our first row, second, third, then we decrease to fourth and fifth. And of course you can make this as big or as small as you like, but this is the basic pattern regardless of size.
Thank you for following along today. Leave a thumbs up if this video helped you. Subscribe below to keep up with all the great videos coming up. And if you have questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. I would love to hear your requests for future videos. See you next time. Happy making!